gonna have to move the railing forward. You can keep this up.
Well, Main Street is one. Not
Okay, it is 5:30, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Chris, if you would take the roll, please.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Galloway.
Here.
Councilmember Hoffman.
Here.
Councilmember Dupre.
Here.
Mayor Foote.
Here. So first, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway. Did she say yes?
I didn't hear her say yes, but
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Councilmember Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilmember Dupre.
Yes.
okay. So as we go through the agenda, before we start, it's great to see all you people here. That is awesome. This is a work session. So the way I look at this is it's a little bit more conversational, but at the same time, I do want to keep order. So if you would like to speak on anything, there are slips of paper in the basket on the front banister that you can fill out. I will open up opportunities for you to come speak at different points throughout the night. But if I have your name on the slip of paper, I know exactly what you want to talk on, and I can put you in where I think it works best. So with that, I think that'll get us started. So we'll move to the first item on the agenda. And this is just discussion on, do you want to read these? You want me to?
Well, I can read it.
Yeah.
Resolution number 62, 2026, adopting a residency and response requirement policy for critical or essential city employees identified by the Ottumwa City Council. Discussion of changes to the policy as originally drafted and waiver requirements.
Thanks, Cole. So yeah, this is just a time where we can have a conversation about this policy. We talked about some of the changes. I know I proposed some. We started to talk about that, but we found it best to just table this for tonight. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk through some of your guys' ideas on what the best way to move forward is. We won't take any action on this tonight, but instead we'll just we'll talk through and try to get it to where the council has a consensus. So
Mayor Foote, one of the thoughts that I had about this was instead of the 30-mile idea to make it Wapello County, 30 miles is putting people, they could be beyond Fairfield, beyond Albia, beyond Bloomfield. It's quite a ways out. I'd like for Ottumwa to be their central city. And so I think Wapello County would be nice. That's just a thought from me. But I also feel like this should be only for newly hired people or people who are maybe within the city government but taking a different position. They're switching to a different position. It would then apply to them too. So I just thrown out my thoughts there on that to get us started.
sure.
On anything.
Mayor, I think if I'm not incorrect, I believe that the fire department are already under a directive that they have to be within 30 miles
That's
of the
correct.
city of
Yes.
Ottumwa.
Yes. Yep, that is correct. And this resolution would be only for department heads and directors. It isn't for anyone but them.
So I wasn't thinking about that when I said Wapello County, that we already have a 30-mile for others. Maybe that, okay. So yeah, so either way, I guess, but I just felt like Wapello County kept them a little tighter.
Sure. Yeah, and then the firefighters would still be in the 30-mile even if we were to move it to Wapello County for the directors and department heads. So any other thoughts?
I think for consistency, the 30.
I would echo.
Go ahead, Kara.
Okay. I would echo what Councilperson Reed said regarding for new employees or employees that take different positions.
Okay.
And then I would also ask that we clarify or define words like critical or essential. And then when we talk about the waiver process too, I'm wondering if we need to have that go through like HR and then it comes to city council for city council to approve.
Sure. Councilmember Dupre, did you have something?
I agree that the 30-mile, that way we're consistent with the fire department, and then there's no disparity between departments.
Okay.
This is just for the directors and above, right?
Correct.
Right.
Department heads and directors. Yeah, that's correct.
So what do you down there think about the idea of new hires versus people who are already hired? Where's your thoughts on that?
I guess personally, I don't understand wanting to live so far away that you're not giving back to the community that you work for.
Well, I agree that everybody I talk to will say, hey, they need to live here, got to live here. But they weren't hired with that stipulation, and that puts them in a bind, you know,
But we're giving them a few years to,
a year and 3 months.
Right. And that can be adjusted as well.
You know, this is a tough one, but I guess I cannot, in all good consciousness, like I said last time, I know there's people in the community that may like me, may hate me. They're both okay, but I just cannot, in good consciousness, send money to another community. You know, I see people struggling here, and then to you know, with jobs and housing, and then we send, you know, we offer somebody that kind of job here making good money. And then every time they pay house taxes, a grocery bill, prescription bill, a car payment, our city's not benefiting from it. Now, I'm not saying we're not benefiting from their talent. That's not what I'm saying by no means, because we do have some talented people. I believe that, but I have to stand firm in the way I started that I think it needs to be here.
Needs to be here or within the
Well, I
30
mean,
miles.
I agree with what we're saying. I think we need to just move on with it and you know what I mean? I'm okay with some adjustments if we want to talk about some adjustments, sorry. But
Okay.
I don't know if that's all.
So I'm hearing two different things as far as distance, Wapello County or 30 miles.
Yeah.
And I know originally I wrote this with either an option of Wapello County 50 miles. So I know we're not at the 50-mile mark. Yeah, I guess I'd like to know how you'd like me to write that. If
I don't know.
Wapello County's the stipulation or the 30 miles.
I agree with Councilman Reed, Wapello County, because, you know, 30 does push pretty far out. Councilman Cabanis, you got a thought? You looked at me.
I don't have any problem with the 30-mile range. That pretty much encompasses the county. And I think if there are slight exceptions in distance, that can be approved one way or the other.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the waiver process that Councilmember Galloway is talking about, that we have a waiver process so that depending on circumstances, then the council has the ability to extend if needed.
I think other cities have done this in the past, and even when it's been challenged, it's been upheld that the city can make that determination.
Yeah. I know I've looked at several cities. I haven't looked at every city in Iowa, but several. I haven't had any that had a 30-mile radius. They were always 20 or less from the ones that I've seen, or 25 or less.
And the reason I was thinking that, we're wanting them to, you know, I want Ottumwa to be their hometown. That's where they shop. That's where they're coming. Whereas
Sure.
at 30 miles, it seems like they could be, you know, they're shopping Fairfield, shopping. I mean,
Right.
Oh, I
nothing against those other towns. I'm not trying to be down on them, but we want to bring them home
Yeah.
in a sense.
And I know last time we talked, right at that first section, it talks about city residence requirements, and I had made originally I wrote it with more than one person, more than one position, I should say, with that category. And then after thinking about it, I know city administrator, that's covered in your contract. If we were to remove the other ones, that kind of takes that part of it out of the resolution completely. And I don't have a problem removing that unless you think sometime in the future we'd need to add to that list.
So just a quick question. If we did go with the mileage, is it based on amount of time that it takes in miles, like going down the roads, or is it a radius out?
That's a good question.
I think it'd have
It's-
to be a radius to make
Yeah.
it consistent.
Some of them that have worded it more precisely, it's been, in a straight line or distance of flight.
Okay. I think if we do use the mileage, we need to make that clear.
Sure. So am I hearing 30 miles? Is that kind of the direction?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I'm still kind of for the county, so.
Are you?
Oh, yeah, okay. I am too, just because it keeps them closer to me. It seems like that, closer to our town, I should say.
25 miles?
But I think there we run into problem because I know we have people that are in Bloomfield.
Right.
Do we have department heads in Bloomfield?
I don't think so. Good call.
Well, and then I think the next big separation maybe is how does it go into play for current employees? Do we have a grace period now? Doesn't affect them at all? I guess I don't have a problem with it not affecting them at all. The caution I have is if they're working here for 10 years and haven't moved, that's a long time to not be part of our community and working for our community. So that's where I like to have it, at least some avenue to where, okay, we need to make an adjustment here. So whether it's more than a year, I can understand that. But at some point, I think we got to say, oh, okay, this is an expectation we're having of others. So now it needs to be an expectation that we have of you.
I think your 2027 is fair enough.
What percent lives outside that radius? Didn't you tell me that one time?
I did, but I don't remember.
You just give me a ballpark
Yeah,
figure.
I don't remember. I don't even remember a ballpark. I can.
Okay.
find out.
Maybe by the end of fiscal year 27 instead of the beginning, you have
Sure.
almost, a little over
A little over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have the waiver process. So if attempts are being made and just can't find what you're looking for, that's certainly understandable. I would hope that as council, we would consider that.
Well, I think that would be fair.
I said we, I'm not council.
Well, and I think we need to be really fair too, because, we're asking people to move in. And I don't mean this bad, I don't anybody take it this way, but not everybody's going to be financially able to,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? So we really need to look at that. And then one more thing I just say, and I say this agreeing with all this. I mean, what if somebody lives on grandpa's farm that's been in the family for 100 years? And I mean, those are going to be exceptions we're going to have to be willing to look at, but at the same time, keep consistency
Right.
to be fair for everybody. So just some things to think about. And then,
Well, I would think that would be part of the consideration on the waiver is years of service, having lived there, coming to town all the time and working and is it the family farm? That would make, it's a little harder to get rid of a family farm than it is to
Yeah.
the house,
Yeah.
right. And, I kind of want to put myself in their shoes too. Like, I mean, I don't know if I could go buy another, if somebody made me, I'm not sure. That would take a little time. That would, but just as long, I agree with everything. I just want to be consistent and and have people here. So
Well, and that's what plays into the not having it be retroactive, but forward looking, is then you don't have the issues with anybody who's currently in a situation like that or could be. If we advertise a job with that residency requirement, they take the job knowing there's that residency requirement. They
Sure.
might not have it right away, but they have to have it within a year or whatever the time frame is. That's something for consideration too.
Sure.
So when you interviewed people for these positions and you knew they lived out of the area, did you consider that when you were having those conversations on the hire of them moving to Ottumwa or near Ottumwa?
Not specifically. We consider them based on their qualifications, the skills, everything, not where their geographic location was at the time.
But did you kind of like assume that they were going to be moving?
Not necessarily. I mean, depending on where they lived. If somebody lived 15 miles away, I don't assume that they're going to
Right.
up and leave. Talking with the employees that currently live outside the city, they, have been looking for places. They haven't found anything that worked for them. Have made arrangements to be here during parts of the year. So they are living in the city during that time. But yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the easiest thing to find the home that you want to be living in permanently either.
Right, especially if you've got a really nice place and really worked out for you and you've been there a lot of years. Who wants to up and sell and try to find something else,
I think there's also a possibility that we have several rental properties in Ottumwa that people could temporarily rent if they needed immediate residency. And then they could look for properties that are more suitable if that's not suitable.
Sure.
And I like the administrator's suggestion of the end of 27 being a reasonable time.
I'd have to agree with that.
I agree with that too, but I also, and again, I'm in agreement with this, so I support this. But I don't want our employees to have the, oh gosh movement, oh gosh, I'm going to get fired because even though I'm good, I can't find out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to have that feeling either.
But I think that's where the temporary waiver comes in.
Right.
Right.
And the consistency the consistency in the waivers and we have to be compassionate to their situations.
Sure.
Bill, to answer your question, there are 4 department heads that do not live within the city.
Do they live in Wapello County?
No.
One of them does.
So there's actually 3 that would live outside the county, right?
Correct.
Do they meet the 30 mile?
One of them.
So we're down to 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So really right now, if it's just 3 we have to deal with,
2.
2,
If we went
Well,
with 30
You go
mile.
30 miles.
3 if we
Two,
go with
3
county.
If you go to county, yeah.
2 if we go.
With 30 mile.
So we all know, I think we can all agree right now to put to bed that we agree with this going forward, no matter what. This is going to be part of the hiring process. If we have to have these conversations, no matter what, right? Like if we go forward, like
Right.
having the conversation with department heads that this policy would say you have to live within Wapello County. So now what about the 3 or 2? 3 with count or
3 with
2 with county, 3 with 30 miles, right?
Right. Yep. I think that's where the waiver process comes into play, and that's why it's so important. And then if
So
we're,
speaking about the waiver,
yeah,
what are the specific criteria to grant a waiver?
right now it just says the city council may grant temporary waiver of the residency or distance requirements in cases involving recruitment needs, hardship, or other circumstances deemed appropriate by the council. And so it's already written in as far as authority. I think the thing that we are missing is the procedure part of it.
Well, I guess I would
I
suggest,
understand what it says, but like, how are we very specific so that we are being fair across the board?
Sure.
If I can just make the suggestion, if we're talking about 2 employees, perhaps we could forgive those 2 employees, encourage them to move into the city. But we're talking about 2 employees, and if we don't apply it retroactively, then those 2 would be fine. You don't have to worry about the waiver or anything else. And hopefully they move within that 30-mile radius. But if not, we're talking about 2 employees.
We could push the date out a long ways.
Do that.
It's
too.
also-
Instead of 2
it's
years,
also
go
an
5
issue.
or 7 or,
Sorry, excuse me.
yeah.
As far as coming into town, especially if a husband or wife works at that other location, and then, then they're just getting farther from their work or whatever, that's another issue that these folks might have, is
Sure.
having a spouse working at the other location. It makes it difficult for them then to move to our area. So I would be glad to, forgive the 2 that are outside the area for, and just move on from there and make it a forward progress, a forward looking idea.
Okay.
But this is,
2 would be
2 would be,
Wapello.
we'd have,
30 miles would be 2. Yeah.
If we forgive the 2, that means we're putting the 30 miles in the policy and not just the county, correct?
right.
At the
Which
same
puts
time,
us
you
right
could go
back to where
county
we
and
was.
forgive the 3.
Right, but going forward, would we say the county or would we say 30 miles?
I think, in my mind, I would set the distance the way we want it. And then if we're going to forgive, we forgive the ones that are, so really anyone currently employed, if we're forgiving, this doesn't affect them
Unless they transfer into another position.
to another position. So it'd be what
And,
Councilmember Reed suggested.
okay, but going forward, are we at 30 miles or are we at county? You hire somebody tomorrow and they say, okay, where do I got to live?
Right.
You say, you got to live 30 miles away or you got to live in the county?
Well, I've heard 2 people say 30 and 2 people say county.
Mayor, I'll go with whatever you'd prefer. I mean, 30 or the county is not much.
I stick with county. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
if we're,
say
especially
30.
going forward, because going forward, if we forgive who we have,
Right.
going forward in the hiring process to people we haven't hired yet, if we make it 30 miles, we're right back to square one of what we were trying to stop to begin with.
You're right.
Sure.
Because now they're going to live in Oski, Fairfield, and pay their taxes to them and pay their house payments to them. I mean, if we're going forward, then and forgiving the ones that are here, I'm okay with that. The talent here is okay, but going forward, I think we need to stick to the county
Sure.
because we want them to live here. That was the whole point of us discussing this.
Right.
I'll agree with you, Mr. Hoffman,
I do
just to
too.
avoid confusion.
So I'm going to write it. I'm going to write it as Wapello County.
And that's
If
going
you guys
forward.
change your mind, you'll
That's
just have to
going
vote that
forward.
way.
It's going forward.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So we're taking out the must move date?
Right.
Okay.
And I will change it to the wording that Councilmember Reed brought forward. So it's retroactive for all new employees.
Okay.
That isn't retroactive. I spelled that wrong.
Yeah, it applies to only new employees
Yeah.
and new positions.
Yep. Okay. So the waiver process, my intention then would be to get with HR and legal again and look at that. And I know I had notes, I didn't bring them with me of what I thought it should be. So I'll get with HR and legal and we'll work through what that procedure looks like. And then present that at the next regular council meeting. So. Okay. So moving on, we're gonna, I know that we have already started talking about having budget discussions for fiscal year 27. And so it looks like Mr. O'Donnell has some stuff, so I'm gonna start with him.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start because after the March 10th work sessions, the shortfall was reduced to $745,587. One option presented at the work session was possible increases to the utility franchise fees. Staff provided an analysis of 1% and 2% increase in an email to the council as requested. The text of the correspondence is as follows. A 1% increase would result in an estimated $478,000 increase in revenue. It is estimated that an average resident would pay an additional $24.60 per year. The shortfall would then be reduced to $267,587. A 2% increase would result in an estimated $956,000 increase in revenue. It is estimated that an average resident would pay an additional $49.20 per year. The shortfall would become a surplus of $210,413. The resulting surplus could be a carry forward to fiscal year 28 in order to lessen any potential shortfall in that year. The surplus could be used to directly pay for public safety benefits, thereby reducing the benefits levy. The surplus could be banked for capital projects or economic development incentives. Alliant Energy and Mid-American Energy forwarded the average residential bill for their Ottumwa customers. An average electric bill is $150 a month. So again, that's average. So there's some higher, some lower. An average gas bill is $55 a month. If the franchise fee increased by 1%, the average customer, again, would pay an additional $2.60 per month or $24.60 per year. So I've got other stuff that was brought up during individual meetings. Do we want to discuss any merits of the franchise fee or just go ahead and do everything as a big bundle at the end?
I think we're going to end up doing a big bundle at the end.
Okay.
Just because we got a lot of different ideas that we need to process.
Okay, so during the individual budget meetings with council members, a few new ideas were suggested and are follows. Shorten the summer hours operation for the beach. This could be done by either operating 5 days a week or reducing open hours by two per day. It is the opinion of staff that having the facility open daily would help maintain attendance. I did ask Parks Director Rathje to provide an estimate of savings. We calculated that was somewhere between $35,000 and $38,000. That would be and that's direct savings to the general fund. There would be additional savings in FICA, IPERS, and those types of things, but those are on the benefits levy. So the direct savings to the general fund would be around $35,000 to $38,000. Okay.
So is there any, is there any idea of what that cost us though, in lost revenue?
That would be determined, and it could be on how we set the hours. If we opened an hour later and closed an hour earlier, you still have some evening swim. If we opened at noon but closed at 6, you would eliminate the evening swim, so you may lose some of those patrons that like to go a little later in the day. So again, you'd have to look at how you adjust those to what would be the most ideal. I know in other communities that a 1 o'clock opening is not unusual. And some of those places, what they do is their pool is also for lap swimming. And so they'll do from 12 to 1, they'll do the lap swim. Of course, we have the indoor facility for that. But again, a 1 o'clock opening is not unheard of. You may lose some concession sales by opening at 1 p.m. because those that show up at noon might be those that also have some money to buy concessions. So there might be some loss there. Closing at 6 o'clock could also see some loss in concession sales for anybody that maybe comes in the evening. The only way to calculate that is to actually adjust the hours and then see what happens.
So
because those are all shots in the dark.
Right. So the current hours are noon to 7 for the outside?
Noon to 8.
Noon to 8.
Noon to 8.
How many people do you think are there after 6?
From 6 p.m. until 8 p.m., I'd say we have around 15 to 20% of our daily attendance there. A few other notes is we usually close our concession stand at 5 p.m. And we also send those staff members home along with 2 lifeguards home at 5 p.m. So from 5 until 8, we're operating with minimal staff, just 7 lifeguards, tube shack employee, front desk employee, and then a supervisor. I'd recommend sticking with the 12 noon start time because it's been consistent over 33
Right.
years. And
Right.
I think we want to stick with that. If we need to close at 6, we can do it. There have been a lot of days in the summer where we close before 8 p.m. based on weather or low attendance. So,
For, you're open 7 days a week,
yes,
and all of them are open from 12 to 8?
yes.
Maybe some of the weekdays you could close at 6 and the weekends stay open till 8.
We could try it, but I've learned sometimes that can be confusing to people.
No?
And they
True
get
that.
used to the consistent hours day in and day out. So
Mr. Rathje, do we have, is there a time for swimming lessons? Are there groups that come in, like maybe bust in from another school district someplace and they bring a busload of kids for swimming lessons like in the morning or something, or how does that happen?
our group lesson program is from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay.
That's when that happens. But once we open outdoors, then we have other groups that come in to swim, like big bus loads from, let's say, Scotland County, Missouri, or Washington, Iowa, or Burlington, or, the Burlington YMCA, for example. We have those going on all summer long during the daytime hours.
And do they usually stay till 8?
No, they're usually gone by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Is there extra revenue generated by those people that come at the earlier hour? We talked about opening at 12, but you're telling me that those people may show up between 10 and 11. So do they pay extra?
The 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. swim lesson program is indoors only. We don't open outdoors until noon. After we open at noon outdoors, then we have several bus loads of people coming in on a regular basis from the surrounding towns that, want to go to the beach because they don't have a water park like at the beach in their community.
Right.
But the people that swim indoors still require lifeguards and people like that to
Yes.
maintain.
Correct.
So we have some expense there.
Yeah, there's always labor costs. All day long. We've got lap swim starting at 5:30 a.m. Then we switch over to group lessons at 10. Then at noon, we open outdoors.
And do you recall some years ago when we decided to keep the concession stand open till 6:30 or 7, when people would bring their children and they would decide to have dinner there? It seems reverse to me to close at 5 if you have people that are coming specifically to have dinner with their children at the park.
There are some days when it's hot out, when we're really busy, we'll stay open until 6 at the concession stand. But on most days, the business really slows down at the concession stand by 5 or 5:30 p.m. And when it gets to the point where we don't have any customers within half an hour, then we know it's time to close.
Call me, I'll come and eat.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
So it seems like a noon to 7 then would be a reasonable thing. It wouldn't be too much, wouldn't be cutting much off the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think noon to 7 is reasonable. We might be losing a few customers on the really hot days, but as long as we advertise those hours in advance, I think we'll be okay. I think closing at 6 is going too far personally. We'll be losing out on too much business and
I agree.
chasing
I agree.
customers off to Albia and Kirksville and the other surrounding pools.
I like the 12 to 7.
I think so.
So the noon to 7 would then reduce the savings. Say if it's, because we had a 1 hour, 2 hour reduction, now we're down to a 1 hour reduction. So you're probably looking somewhere around $18,000 to $19,000.
Yeah, not too much.
Over what period of time?
If the pool was open from 12 to 7
Per month or per week?
per day,
Okay.
per day.
So
Per
that'd
day.
be for the
And
whole
then,
season.
and that's the outdoor operation.
For the whole season?
The original request from council members was if we cut it for 2 hours. And so that's what we calculated on.
Some people have never operated a business, so they don't understand. You have to have your doors open some days, even when you don't have a customer coming through the door.
Understood. And as Director Rathy just said, that there are days where we don't have enough customers, so the benefit of having it open is greater than the cost of having it open is greater than the benefit. And so we do close it when that happens.
We need to advertise more so that we can get more people in there
Yep.
during those hours.
I don't disagree, sir.
So with just the hour reduction, we'd save about half of what you estimated there.
Correct. Correct. So then the second suggestion, it deals with the COLA increase and freezing the step wages, but I believe that Mayor Foote has those within his suggestions, and I'll allow him to introduce those and discuss them.
Okay. I have certain times that I'll probably call people up, like we just heard about the tax, or I won't say tax, the franchise fee. And so I was going to ask is it Alice Richardson, if she would like to come and talk now.
Speak about the situation with the increased taxation.
Uh-huh. Yeah, if you'd like to speak now.
I'll wait until somebody can speak.
Okay. And I guess I'd open it up. Is there anyone that wants to talk about any of the items we've discussed so far? Sorry. Yeah, go ahead and come up, and then I'll ask you to say your name and your address so we can have that on the record.
Okay.
And then yep, come on up. Unfortunately, no.
Gail Roberts, 9 Friendly Lane, Ottumwa. You're talking about the beach.
Yes.
I feel like we need to leave the beach alone because, like he said, you're going to push people away. You want to push, you're wanting everybody to stay, your employees to stay within Wapo County. You want your citizens to stay in Wapo County also. Now, do they still have where you can purchase a yearly pass at a reduced rate during certain times?
Yes, yearly pass and summer pass.
Okay, is that advertised well, or?
No.
It is on the city website.
Not everybody goes to the city website.
And the sign out front of the building.
Okay, all right. I don't see what it would cost to put something in. Not everybody gets the newspaper, but I think most people get that one thing in the mail. It's something to do with that, but I can maybe see it hour, but even if we cut 1 hour, you said it's only going to save
18 to 19, maybe $20,000.
but it's still a savings.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you count income.
Yep, thank you. Okay.
I agree with her. We need to advertise better.
Okay. All right. So as Mr. O'Donnell mentioned, there's a packet. Unfortunately, I did not make enough for everybody because, I didn't know. But for council, you should each have a packet. And these are ideas that have been brought forward to me either from other council members, some are myself. I will preface it with this. Some of these ideas are not necessarily viable for current budget, but I think they're good to have a quick conversation on just to show some of the direction we could go in growing the city and improving on our budget just in creative ways. I think that those are good brief conversations to have. And so I'll be moving, and we'll start with those. There are other ones in here that talk about different things to do with the salary structure and what that may look like. just keep in mind, there's a lot of different ones. And the only reason we're looking at this is, as we've said, we want to look at everything. We want to leave no stone unturned. And so by doing that, we're just considering it all. It doesn't mean that there's a recommendation one way or the other, but it is something that we need to have a conversation on. So with that, I'm just going to start going through these. And in the audience, I hope you can keep up. So the first one, this actually came up in the last budget meeting in a specific sense, but I think it's something that we need to talk about in a more general sense, and that's city-county partnerships and finding positions that we have here in the city that double up with the county and then partnering with the county in those, whether as it was proposed before having an inspector that would be part-time with the city, part-time with the county. I know there's been conversation since then that I don't know if that's readily available as a partnership yet, but I do think we need to keep having the conversation with the county to keep that idea going. I think that's something that can help us and them. And if you guys have any comment on that, I'd be willing to listen. Otherwise, I'll just move on to the next one.
I think that's good. You know, there's got to be things that we're doing, they're doing, and we could work together.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know what those are. Those would have to be identified. What are the common items?
Right.
And see if we could work something out.
Yeah, and I do have plans to talk with the supervisors and see what their ideas are as well. I just don't know if we can get it done fast enough for this year's
I
budget.
agree with that.
So yeah, that's where that's at. Another idea that came forward was an idea of furlough. So furlough staff up to half their current working days. So what this would do is this would decrease the salary expense while then sharing or having positions shift to more of a part-time position, while then retaining their benefits during the furlough time period. So it'd be a time period. We'd have to figure out how that works. The savings would be on the salary side. It's really hard to quantify that because we'd have to really determine what positions that would work with, how that would work, how the different salaries would work. So again, I think that that's a good idea to look at. A conversation. I don't know if we are able to make a decision on that tonight necessarily, just because we don't have any quantifiable item here. So if that's something we want to continue to speak on, I think we can do that. But I wanted to at least give merit to the idea of being, again, another creative idea to look at what we're doing. Kind of in the same lines of that is the next one, and that's a job share. And so this would be similar to what we talked about with city council, only within the city. So sharing a job position. So having, say, 2 part-time employees working in the same position to provide full-time work. The way I've pictured this is if there are 2 individuals that work 25 hours a week, they have a 5-hour overlap between the 2. So they're able to provide services for the city in that position, but neither one is full-time. So that would work well with people who want a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. They're not looking for a full-time position for one reason or another. I know the way I was talking to Administrator Rath, the thing that came to my mind is when I went to kindergarten, I didn't go to kindergarten all day. I paired up with someone else that went the other half of the day for me. So if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
Mayor, are you saying then that that would be, okay, so the people could select half-day work. Would they keep their full-time benefits?
Not necessarily. I think this would be 2 half-time people, so then they wouldn't qualify for full-time benefits. I think if you start giving full-time benefits in this instance, then you really start reducing the amount you're saving on the budget side of things.
This is more like for your person that wants to cut back on hours because they're a new mom or new dad or wanting to retire but not ready to quit working completely.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So again, it's not anything that is quantifiable to be able to take action necessarily tonight, but I think it's something that we could start looking at as a possible savings as we move forward.
We did this in the hospital. The nurses would do that didn't want to work full-time. They would work kind of what we called a split. They would work their 2 days and then someone else would come in and work the next 2 days.
Sure.
Or they'd work a day and a half rather than working the full 3-day schedule.
Mayor, I think if there were jobs that would work out for half-time people, the real question is what type of savings would be valued at that? And I
Right.
know you have to have the job and you have to understand the people would be willing to work that job.
Sure.
But still, if you're not saving anything, you're really just cutting people's salaries.
But we would be saving on benefits, right?
Yeah, you'd be saving on benefits and essentially, yeah, you'd be saving on the benefit side.
And because they're part-time, there's not vacation pay.
Yeah.
There is vacation pay if they are part-time. It's at a reduced rate. It's based
Reduced
on the
rate.
number of hours that they're budgeted per year. So
Okay.
they still do accrue in
Vacation
time.
time?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed something. Is this a going forward thing, or is this positions that exist now that we would go in and say, oh, now you have to do this and you lose what you have?
This would be a voluntary thing, right? It'd be something they would want to do, cut back, or
I think if we were to look at it as a current budget scenario per se, we would have to investigate the positions that this would actually work with
right.
within the city. I think we would need to investigate the individuals and talk to people if they're even willing to do that. So yeah,
That's my question. What if they weren't willing?
well, then
We
we'd have
can't
to
force
decide
Right.
if we're going to do it or
And
not.
Yeah, but I'm coming from a point as I don't want to force them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I
no, I
don't.
get that.
But like Councilperson Price said, if it worked that somebody wanted to spend more time at home or wanted to spend, those are fantastic positions for that if they elected to do that. I just don't want to take something away from somebody.
Well, I
Right.
think this would be if you had someone that was currently working full-time that's thinking of those options. It would be,
Keep their foot in the door.
right, keep their foot in the door, exactly. They could approach us and we could see if that would work.
It could also be something we look at for new hires in certain positions to where if we have a position we're wanting to fill and we have applicants that don't necessarily want to go full-time, we could contact more than one person and then do the job share that way.
Well, there's a lot of talented people who might want to do that too. They've come to maybe the end of their career or switching careers or something and have they have a lot of value, but everybody has value. And I want to make that clear. That's why, I want to make sure everybody knows.
Yeah. I'm going to move to the next one. Next one then is internships. I loved when I saw this come across my desk. So this would be providing a work study or internship program, partnering with people like Indian Hills Community College, Ottumwa High School, Ottumwa Job Corps, some of these other surrounding educational organizations where we could provide an internship program. I don't know of any unpaid internship programs, at least not in Ottumwa, Iowa. So this would be a paid position, but since it is an internship, the salary level is quite a bit less. Oftentimes it could be part-time or temporary work, seasonal work, depending on the position and what they're interning. So again, not something that's quantifiable today, but an idea that I think we could start looking at partnering with some of those organizations to bring this into play.
I really like this idea.
Yeah, going forward, this is a great idea. You get a pipeline of new ideas. You get a pipeline of people who can do it, and in essence, we're building our own leadership. We're growing our own future
Right.
leaders.
We're seeing who's interested. They're learning about city government and who's doing the job and likes it and who could be hired for an opening when it does come.
For sure.
At Sunstrand Aerospace, we did this, and every summer we had a whole crew of young guys coming in for either finance or engineering or whatever. But
Yep.
they took less pay just to get the experience.
Yeah.
It's a great resume adder too.
So I'm not going to call out the one who gave that idea, but they're in the room and thank you.
That was a citizen. Yeah.
We know who you are, so thank you. At this, I'll open it up again. Is there anyone that wants to talk about anything that we've talked about to this point? I know we're, okay, that's fine.
I don't understand, Roberts.
Yes.
I don't understand this furlough thing.
Okay.
It's going to be voluntarily, or are you going to say, we're going to put you on furlough?
It could go either way.
Okay. So if you do mandatory, most employees within the city are low-paid, hardworking union
Absolutely.
people.
They are.
Yep.
So if you take those rights away from us, make us do that, that's going to be, of course, a grievance
Right.
in the beginning,
Sure.
but
Yeah. And I would state again, all the ones we've talked to from what I have here, again, are just ideas. They're not anything that I think we could take action of now in this current budget. So these would be ideas of how we could look to reduce the budget in the future. And
okay.
again, we're looking at everything that we possibly can. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I appreciate your comment. Yep. Okay. Next one, there's actually two that kind of go together. So I can kind of talk to them together. So the first one would be, I know with the fire department and our firefighters, we have a huge amount of overtime spent in the budget right now. And I know Administrator, you could probably speak to some of this as well, because I had a good conversation about this, that some of this has to do with injury and illness. And I guess, yeah, what's some of the reason for that overtime now?
Well, and fire chief is here, and
That's true.
HR director Kojo as well, that sees some of this, but a lot of this with the overtime, there's some of it is going to be the FLSA overtime. Just based off of our scheduling, we're going to have mandated overtime we pay. So similar, if you work a 40-hour week, after 40 hours you get overtime. With their schedule, after whatever the number of hours is, they get that overtime, and it's just a scheduled overtime. The rest is we have some firefighters that are out due to injury, and while they're recovering, their shifts need to be filled. We have minimums that need to be staffed, so as a result, we're going to have people coming in. Earlier this year, I believe it was, or the end of last year, the city council had agreed to actually go over our staffing levels. So we have 2 more people staffed than what the numbers are to help with some of that overtime. And the numbers are coming down, but it's not going to just eliminate. There's still going to be some of that overtime. The offset of that, though, is we're paying the individuals that are off while they're out recovering. Plus, we're paying now the individuals that are taking their spots. If someone takes a vacation, their shift gets filled. That's overtime. So there's going to be overtime regardless. We'd have to hire a lot more firefighters to try to really reduce that overtime. And then you'd have the costs of the salary or the wage and the benefit there. Benefits would go to the benefit levy, but there's still going to be some costs.
Well, you still got 5 out in training, right? For like 5 weeks or something too. 8.
3.
Yeah. So
And they'll come on, which will help
No,
lower
but
those
my point
numbers
is
as well.
Even with a little overtime, I mean, they still got some people out. It's been a rough couple of years. I mean, I know that's a lot of overtime, but I don't want to be a horrible with taxpayer money, but some of that you have to absorb. You can't help it. I mean, we needed, so it's
The overtime.
It's not the fault of them. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Chief.
The overtime for the fire department is really kind of twofold. One is obviously when we have injuries, FMLA leave, stuff like that. Take a period of time.
Well, then you were way short on top of that.
Yeah, correct. But then also you still have vacations that we need to cover within the organization. So our staffing level, a daily staffing over the years, I just found a letter just not too long ago where they explained that to council, but our daily staffing at a minimum of 7. So we have to maintain at least 7 people. So if you have people take vacation with the hours that they accrue, we still have to make sure we're filling that, which is then overtime. So Mr. Rath was speaking, firefighters are a little different than a regular 40-hour employee. They don't get overtime until 106 hours in a pay period. So once they hit 106, they then get overtime. But then after that overtime, once they hit 106, anything they work, be it a mandatory callback, we have a structure fire, something along those lines, that is then overtime. So there's what you would call scheduled overtime and then unscheduled overtime.
Okay. I think some of the idea with this was, could we hire another employee or two and not have as much overtime? And what I'm hearing is that isn't necessarily the case. So is that right?
You'd reduce the overtime budget, but you'd pick it up in the wage budget. So it's
And benefits.
and benefit, yeah.
So you're saying we're at a balance right now. We're at the balance point, because if, the idea is we get this high overtime, an employee or two, would that bring it into balance, or we're already at balance?
We hire them in groups of 3 typically, because we have the 3 shifts that the 3 crews. And so if you're adding one to a crew, you'd add the one to each crew typically this way. So we've do that in groups of 3. The more people that you have, that will reduce the overtime. And the big thing that is concerned with the overtime, aside from the dollar amount, is the wear and tear on the individuals, and making sure that, if there is, you don't want to have the burnout. You don't want to have the likelihood of more risk of injury as a result. And that's the bigger concern. So if we have staffing levels that are good with keeping people healthy and keeping the public safe, that's what we're most concerned with. Because otherwise you're just replacing the dollars in one for the other.
Right. And just my 2 cents, you take the fire department or the police department, we want to make sure they have staffing levels that keep themselves safe as well.
Right.
I mean, there's times we have 3 or 4 officers on the street. If nobody's sick or vacation or.
So one other thing to consider, that every new hire to offset the overtime, not only like Administrator Rath said, it increases the salary line item, it also increases the benefit cost.
Right. Yep. Okay. The next one's kind of the same discussion, only for the police department. Again, same idea. As far as, and it sounded like with the conversations that I've had, we're in the same boat, that with the amount of overtime, could we hire someone to help bring the overtime down? Yeah, we could, but then your salary and benefits go up, and then it ends up kind of washing out. So I guess the big question is, if it's washing to a net zero, is that something we need to look at to keep the safety and the burnout and the retention where it needs to be?
And Chief Arrington and again, HR Director Kojo can speak a little bit more about our efforts with recruitment. Again, this one you'd be a little more likely. We don't have the same amount of scheduled overtime there, but you're going to have that unscheduled overtime, people running over on shifts, different, vacations, things like that. But maybe if Director Kojo could speak about the recruitment efforts, because we're actively trying to recruit officers to fill these positions.
Sure.
Yeah, we haven't been fully staffed in police officers in 4 years, 5 years. And it's not due to a lack of effort by any means. I think we're testing every other month for them. It's getting people to be able to pass the civil service exam and then also pass the background check, the psychological exam and everything like that.
So that's those things are the problem. It's not that they don't want the job or whatever. It's those tests.
It's kind of a combination of both. We do have, one time we might get 12 applicants that'll fill out the application and be invited to test, and maybe 6 people will show up to test, and then 3 people pass the test. And so it's a combination. It seems to change month to month to month. We've got a list, like Chief and I work together, and we know who's retiring and what, potential openings are coming up. And we've talked that if we had additional people that we could make that offer to, or could actually work through that process, we would come to council to bring that, to try and reduce some of that overtime, or to be ready, because with police, fire now also goes through a schooling for it. It's the same thing with police. They go to ILEA. So we go through all the civil service testing, which takes 2 to 3 months to do that, plus then the testing at ILEA. And then they come back and there's a field training officer program. I mean, it's almost a year before they're actually released on their own onto the street. Same thing with a firefighter now. I mean, going through EMT training and some of those other trainings, it's not an immediate reprieve that we see.
So Chief Barrington, we have 4 on the street at any given time. I mean, I'm going to assume that's kind of what we talked about, but how many how do I want to put that? How many do you need on the street to be safe, to be staffed, to be?
So basically during the week, Monday through Thursday, we have shift minimums for officer call loads, if you will, of 4. On the weekends, it jumps to 5. Right now, our squads, we try to allow at least 1 sergeant and 1 officer off. They put in the collective bargaining agreement to have that off, which then forces that overtime issue. Other than that, it's FMLA, like the fire department, injury. I've got individuals that are active in the military, so any military leave, whether it be the training or not, we still have to cover down on that. That's hard to say. We work in a profession where, I would love to have 10 officers to cover the entire city, but on one day, you may have only really needed 4, but on another day, we could have used 20.
Sure.
It really, you don't know when crime's going to kick off or when that's going to occur, but I would love to have a minimum of 6 on each squad each day.
Well, and I would agree with that too, not only to keep the citizens safe, but that you guys have to keep yourself safe too. I mean, you guys have to go home at night too. And I try to see through things. I mean, I know we're in a shortfall when we're discussing, cuts, but in the future, when you talk about either department, but talking about the police department now, if we added and had 6 on the street, if you can cut 1 accident cost or you can cut 1 injury, that's a potential 150,000, you know what I mean, in medical care. So, I think fully staffed and maybe even for their departments, 1 over, in the future, when it would be a good discussion to have.
Sure.
Chief, when's a good time to rob a store in Ottumwa on your shifts?
With this police department, it would never be a good time, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Good answer.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Next one in the packet. This is actually, Mr. Bergmeyer, you might be able to speak to some of these. There's a maintenance repair item on the budget at 200,000. Okay, I'm just reading through here. No, is it 3? I believe right now it's at 500,000. And if we were to reduce that down to the original budget amount of 300,000, that would be a $200,000 savings. But I think we're trying to figure out, my understanding is this item that we're talking about is a pump and concrete for repairs, is what Cole and I talked about. So the next question would be, is this something that can be reduced? Is it still functioning properly? What's the need for it?
Oh, so it's 2 different items. So the pump maintenance is kind of a placeholder. We budget X amount of dollars, and when our pumps go bad or they need repairs, they have to be repaired no matter what. So there's really no savings. You can make that number whatever you want to, and the pump repair bill is going to be what it is, because you can't not pump sewage.
Right.
The concrete repairs, there are some areas that have deteriorated concrete. They've been bad for a while. Could you push it off for a year? Probably. It wouldn't get that much worse, but at some point you're going to have pieces start falling off and it'll need repaired. So with most capital items, you can push it off, but it's just a question of how much risk you want to take, how bad do you want to let it get before you fix it. So
Sure. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
John Lloyd, 216 West Alta Vista. Yeah, I thought we were speaking about general fund and not necessarily sewer revenue.
Right, that was my
Correct.
question. Would this even help the general fund?
This doesn't help the general fund at all.
No.
These are repairs that are required and are necessary for the sewer department.
Right. Yeah,
I
and
can
I-
tell you the 500,000, I think we're down to about 140 to get us to June. So, and the concrete repairs were something that was special that was brought up. We actually changed a few things because we found out some of the repairs that we thought we needed to do weren't going to be necessary in that area. But they were going to be necessary in others because the spalling was just horrible. So some things they have to get moved around because they're underwater. We can't see them unless we bring stuff down. And we only do that. We try not to do it very often because it takes a lot to bring it down. It takes a lot to bring it back up. And when you're dealing with bacteria and microorganisms, the longer they're down, it's harder to get those microorganisms back up and running.
Okay.
They work for us. I mean, they do the workload.
So what I'm hearing with this item, well, one, it's not general fund, which is fine. Still an idea that was brought forward to me, so that's why we're talking about it.
Yep.
And it's more of when it happens, then we'll know the actual cost. But we put a place marker in the budget for this amount. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'd say most years we probably underrun it, depending on where the repairs are at. If Elm Street needs repairs, those are really, really expensive, so you can blow through the budget pretty quick. But Elm Street, I don't think it's had a repair in a couple of years now. So as long as none of the big pumps go out, we usually underrun that.
Okay.
And these are all paid out of sewer fees?
Yeah, there's no general fund money in the sewer department. It's all paid out of sewer fees.
Is there any questions from council on that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to move to the next one because Elm Street happens to be on it. Next one, again, we know this isn't general fund. This will be sewer fee funded. But I think whoever submitted this was looking for just more clarification on this item on the budget. And of course, the idea is if you didn't have to do any of this, it would be a $425,000 savings. Again, not the general fund. And from what I understood, the Elm Street pump replacement is part of that 425 at 135. We have a digester inspection and repair at 180, a lift station at 50, and a slope mower at 60,000. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The 135 is that's a hard number. We've already bought two. We're going for a third because those pumps are now obsolete. They've been obsolete for about 4 years now.
By obsolete, we mean they don't, there's an old style of pump we've been running in that pump station since the 90s. They don't make it anymore. They're not making parts for it. So we're buying new ones and kind of cannibalizing the old ones for parts until we can get them all replaced with the newer model.
So that's actually just come through by wonderful planning. The digester inspection and repair, I've had estimates. All the estimates I've gotten have been higher than the 180 that was proposed. I've had one as high as 500,000. Those digesters, they're anaerobic digesters. They have not been inspected in at least 10 years.
Okay.
So those are things that we want to get inspected so we know the condition of them so we can make repairs to them. It kind of coincides with the fun thing about it is that it coincides with the sewer separation, and sewer separations decreasing the amount of flow that we get to the sanitary sewer. If we get lower flows, are we necessarily going to need anaerobic digesters? So we are looking at that with our current engineers as possible, just eliminating anaerobic digestion, going straight to aerobic digestion. But anaerobic digestion for us works wonderful because of some of the fat, oil, and grease that we get that comes through the plant.
Sure.
The lift station improvement was a 5-year plan that was implemented last year. $50,000 a year for those different lift stations. I can tell you right now, Rochester, we are looking at relining actually probably reconstructing that main itself. We had 4 breaks in 1 week. Can't wait to give you that bill. You haven't seen that one yet. I haven't seen it yet. And the slope mower is 60,000. It's a tough one because the one that we currently have is in the neighborhood of 15 years old. They don't even make the mower anymore. They just make parts for it. So to come back up with a new one, I'm not really sure what it's going to cost.
Okay.
It would have been 100,000 for the same model. But we're trying to get something a little bit cheaper. It might end up getting into robotics. We don't know.
Okay.
But when you're mowing, I don't like putting people on a slope that's, a 30-degree slope, gets kind of
Dicey.
skittish.
Yeah.
So the wastewater plant, they mow the north side levee from Orchard Street down to where it ties in. So that mower is used to mow the levee.
Okay.
So anybody that walks that walking path should be able to understand what kind of slope we're mowing.
Right.
And also the parks, because they mow with their big mowers. But
So-
I'm talking about more along from the John Deere Lagoon, the Black Lagoon, and back to the west.
Okay.
Ours is a little bit, you couldn't put their mower on what we do. It's just oversized. So, but yeah, that's all 610, 815, and not general fund 001. So,
Right. Okay.
Can I ask, you said that digester had not been inspected for maybe 10 years?
yes, sir.
So how much maintenance have you had to perform in that 10-year period of time?
I think we've put in two chopper pumps since then. Right now, I do not believe we have a backup chopper pump.
Talk to me in terms of dollars.
Zero.
Chopper doesn't mean anything to me.
Chopper pump is 60,000.
Okay.
So we put $120,000 into it in the last 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
So
Any other questions from council? Next one, we're talking sewer again, not general fund. So again, this would be, depending on what it is, could be a savings again of $500,000 based on what it is in the budget. Again, we're stating this is not general fund. This is sewer fees. And my understanding is that this is for sewer maintenance for projects that are not part of sewer separation. I know Mr. O'Donnell and I talked about this earlier. So.
Yeah, so there's like a phase 8 that's part of the sewer separation plan. What this number here is, we took some annual maintenance items and rolled them all into one number. So we used to have a catch basin program, a manhole program that replaced catch basins and manholes. We had a spot repair program. So we rolled all that into one number. That way, if you have, extra manholes replaced one year, you can replace the manholes that year and not have to spread it out. And then the money that's left over in that, we're trying to use to do small separation projects on the south side. So last council meeting, we brought forward a project for McKinley. We had a ditch draining into a sanitary manhole. So that money would come out of this number right here. We had another basin we found on Wildwood that was draining into a sanitary sewer. So when we find little things like that, we're trying to eliminate them as we find them. One of my primary goals with that money is I want to eliminate Richmond Pump Station as a CSO. And we're trying to find these little leftover pieces that got missed during the big sewer separation projects and get those off, because I don't want to have combined sewage going into Ottumwa Park anymore.
Right.
And so that's what that project is. And you could lower it again. You could lower it to 250 if we had to. You could lower it to 200, but the lower you make it, the longer it's going to take us to get those sewers separated and to start eliminating CSOs.
Sure.
So far, we have eliminated Orchard Street just in our last permit cycle, and I want to get Richmond eliminated by the time our next permit comes up.
Okay. And again, this isn't general fund, so it's not part of the shortfall necessarily, but I wanted to make sure to cover that. Okay. Next one up, this is for, it was listed as contractual services for City Hall. it said HVAC phone, which upon investigation, my understanding is that this 100,000 would be to renovate the second floor restrooms to make them ADA. Is that correct?
Correct. It's $300,000 estimated to renovate for ADA. The funds for this are actually part of the bonds that we're issuing.
So again, this wouldn't necessarily affect general fund at
This
all.
has no effect on the general fund.
Right. And I do think it's important to have our public restrooms ADA. So, okay. I'll pause a second. Is there anyone that wants to talk about anything we've spoken about at this point? Lots of sewer stuff. No? Okay.
Nobody cares.
All right. I'm going to move on. The next one, and yeah, this would be, I'll just explain it this way. So the way it was described was fleet reduction by 25%. So we have a certain amount budgeted for our fleet, for our vehicles and equipment. And this would be just setting a line saying, okay, we are going to reduce that budget by 25%. And then with that, we would need to go through and investigate which part of our fleet don't need to be replaced. And then determine that we're only going to spend whatever 25% of $1,034,500 is, which would be what, 258? So about 260,000 would be the savings if we were to move forward with this. And this is general fund, right?
No, this is not general fund either. This is, again, all of the equipment purchases are either done through reserves in Fund 310, or
Okay.
they are done through the bonding. As far as the evaluation of the fleet, no vehicle was recommended for replacement until it goes through the Fleet Review Committee, which our mechanics go through it, check it, evaluate it, and then make a recommendation. And then the Fleet Review Committee would then approve that replacement and then forward it for with a recommendation to the council as part of the capital plan.
Okay.
Your Honor, the term fleet, does that include fire department, police department? Who does that include?
Anything with a motor that rolls.
Yeah, so it does.
Anything in a what?
Anything with a motor and wheels.
Oh, that wouldn't include my car. Okay.
So even the slope mower.
The anything that you can put a person on and has a motor and wheels is evaluated by the fleet committee.
Okay.
So when Director Rafferty needs a new mower, that has to be evaluated and approved as well.
Okay. Any questions from council on that one?
I would think sometimes it would be important to get input from the people that operate that equipment. They may know a little more about it than just a fleet member. So
No, that's also taken into consideration. The department head should not bring it forward for replacement unless they believe that it is not ready for that replacement.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to go through a series of what is titled salary reduction. And what I'd like to do is get through all of these again. These are all ideas. There's a wide range of them. So I just ask, I know some of you don't have the paper, so listen carefully. And then I know that I'll probably need to open it up for public comment after all of these as well. But I'll go through these, and council, if at any time you have questions or comments after each one of these, then feel free to speak. So first one up is a salary reduction for $75,000 or higher. So that would be any staff member making $75,000 or more, having a fixed reduction amount of $6,000. Currently, from what I've been told, that would affect, is that 66 employees? I do have on here some of the impact that could have. It does affect directly those being paid the most, as far as kind of the top half. But it also, with that direct, and then it also does directly affect the budget, the general, all of these will. It also has an impact on retention. So with some employees deciding that that doesn't work for them or their family, they could be looking elsewhere. And so, also require. Yeah, and then with that, there could be, whenever you set a line in salary to where these are higher are going to be reduced, you run the risk of, okay, now there's disparity wherever that line is. For example, someone making $75,100 getting a $6,000 reduction would now all of a sudden be getting paid less than someone who before that was making $69,000. Does that make sense?
I would think that would have to be, if you were going to do something like that, would have to be a soft landing at the number. So if somebody was making 75,100, they would only lose 100.
Sure.
You'd have to figure it on that. So they wouldn't go below that number. That was the way it would be. It would seem to work best. I'm not saying it's a great idea, but it is a thought, that you wouldn't let it go below that number.
Okay. In the same aspect, and then estimated savings on that, I have, if we go that way, again, this is with a hard line, so soft line would probably change the number, but I have it at 396,000. And that's just simply taking the number of employees
So is
times
this
6.
all employees or just the salaried employees, or?
This is all employees making $75,000 or more.
And based upon the mayor's request, we did do with HR, we did do a calculation on the savings, and with version 5, which is just the $6,000 reduction, general fund would save $142,125. Across all departments would be $277,862.
So how much was the general fund one?
142,125.
Okay, so I had the wrong figure down. Okay.
So we're asking people that make $75,000 to go to $69,000?
That's what we
This would
calculated
be-
based upon that. Anyone over $75,000 would then have a $6,000 reduction.
Just to pose a scenario, are we sure that's the best idea when we're trying to attract talent and we're going through the insurance things? We have a lot of talented people, and I don't know. I just don't think
It's
that's the
definitely
answer.
not a perfect idea. It creates problems down the road.
And I don't want whoever had the idea. I don't want to make it sound like a bad idea, because when you are doing budgets, you have to look at everything. But when I see through that, if you save $6,000 on 66 people, and then you have every other town around us saying, "Hey, come on, we'll give you 75, we'll give you 76,000." I mean,
Yeah, and then it's,
I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't want to put down who had the idea, but I'm not sure we're showing our people we value them if we take money away. So just to be transparent to my colleagues, I respect all of you, but I can't support anything that takes salary away.
These are only suggestions.
Right.
And they have
And I
a
just wanted to
wide-
be clear and transparent so that, I don't even knock the idea. I know that we have to look at everything.
Right.
They have a
Leave no
wide
stone unturned, like
range.
the mayor said.
Yeah, and I think with the suggestions we had before tonight, and we decided not to take a lot of those, if we would have taken them all, we still would not have reached our shortfall without raising franchise fees. And so,
Mr. Mayor?
yeah, I think with this,
Mr. Mayor, I want to interrupt real quick.
Yes.
I gave you the wrong, I actually gave you the wrong figures, because that's for, those were
for
for
later.
the COLA freeze. So
Yeah.
I was incorrect on that. So sorry.
so it's 3, it is my number then.
Yes.
I just
396,000.
heard Cole
Is that
say I
correct?
was right.
I gave you the general fund, those papers. Okay, is that what you should then put onto here?
With this one, I did the $6,000 times the number of employees.
And then I think there was a piece of paper because I broke out how many were in the general fund. Did you get that piece of
I
paper?
don't think I got that. No.
No, that was on the sheet that I gave you.
Okay.
Okay, so now,
Because
Didn't
what
get that
this
in
would
there
also do, just so everyone is aware,
Sure.
this would cut every single police officer's salary
Right.
by $6,000, and it
Whoa,
would cut
wait.
half of fires.
Cut fire and police and everybody?
All of every.
A lot of our workers.
Every police officer's salary would be cut by $6,000. This is officer, sergeant, lieutenant, chief, and then half of our firefighters would see a reduction in their pay as well.
All right,
I don't think we'll
to-
follow that
I
recommendation.
think
Yeah,
we can just move on.
Okay.
I just don't
Quick
think,
question.
Yes.
With cutting salaries, can we do that for union employees?
So that's a great question. In order to do that for union employees, we would need to renegotiate the contract with the unions, and the unions would need to accept that. So that's another hurdle we would need to go over if that's the direction we decided to go.
yeah, but. it's
One
not-
thing I'd
that's-
also like to
that-
point out with that is that we do have a tentative agreement with our Public Works Union that we had a closed session with council earlier this year prior to going into that negotiation to receive direction on that negotiation. In good faith, we negotiated that with our Public Works Union, and we do have a tentative agreement, and they have ratified that. So any of these cuts that would come pertaining to that Public Works Union, that could nullify that tentative agreement and that ratification, and we'd have to go back to the table or potentially face arbitration.
Correct.
But I don't think, man, it's probably everybody's going to hate me. I don't think we should go back to that. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't think taking salaries away from anybody's good. I mean, when you talk about police and fire and parks and public works, and I apologize if I miss a department, because I mean, every department, I just don't think we can afford to do that to our
No.
talent.
I agree.
So yeah,
So
I don't think reducing salaries is the answer.
it is only a short-term fix on a long-term problem.
Right,
So
but I think it's
it
gonna
will
create-
complicate issues
Right.
next
It's-
year.
It's going to create more problems than the savings would even be nearly
right.
worth.
But not only that, I mean, I have to look at
order, please.
I mean, I have to look at, I don't want to look too far into it, but I have to look at, I mean, they got families, they got bills, they got groceries, they got car payments, they have, we can't ask them to take a reduction of salary. We got the insurance things coming up, and, there are things we have to raise, and we can't hit them with lower salary. I mean, I don't know. I apologize. No, I don't apologize. I don't care. I can't support it.
We do have a citizen that I've called up. I'm going to let.
Steve Graham, 224 West Mary Street. I'm the head union steward for the Teamsters Local 238. We had a wonderful negotiation this last time.
Yep.
We asked for a lot of things, and we got pretty much what we asked for in some respect, okay? We were happy with it. I just hope that we were in good faith. I thanked each and every one of you. Mary, you were there. I just hope that it can be signed off on. I mean, it was the best negotiation that I'd been in. I've been with the city going on 25 years. I've been on a lot of negotiating, and this was the best one that we have had. Everybody was amicable. It was amicable at the table. Everybody agreed. We had a discussion on some of the things that we asked for. And I'm just saying, I think that, I just hope that you can sign off on it. Because one of the things we brought up was trust.
Yep.
That was a big issue with us. And we felt when we left the table, we had that on both sides. So that's what I have to say on that. I just hope that, you can come to an agreement, and
Yeah.
approve what we settled at the table. Because
you.
it was the best negotiation that we have had. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So it sounds like that idea is not going to fly.
Yeah, can we
Yeah,
just all,
and
can we
guess
just
I
all
just-
agree on the salaries? Can we just,
Right. I just want to remind everyone, we're going through all these ideas, and I talked to a group earlier. Some of them are outlandish, maybe, or just aren't going to work. Some of them have some viability. No idea is a bad idea until it is. And then when it's a bad idea, that's done, right? I think we've discovered that one was a bad idea. So
Bad idea.
that's okay. We'll move on. We may still have other ideas that are like that. So hang on. So the next one is similar. However, this one then raises that line from 75,000 to 100,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, my calculation then on the estimated savings by doing this, again, it's a $6,000 reduction for any staff making $100,000 or more. The estimated amount saved would be 108,000.
Is that to the general fund?
That is general fund
That is general
only.
fund.
Okay.
It does include 5 police sergeants. It affects 18 employees overall. Is that correct?
Yes, what
Yeah.
it would do, 18 employees in the general fund, and then 5 of those are police sergeants.
Correct.
And I will share, if I can take a moment just to speak on behalf of the police sergeants.
Sure.
When the compensation handbook, when that was all passed and everything was done, unfortunately, Chief had heard a lot from them about the wages and what our police officers were being paid. And there was a large concern of wage compression, where we had police officers that were making almost as much as those sergeants, if not in some cases more, especially because the police officers are eligible for that overtime. And especially if you think about tenure, the more tenured ones are going to be the ones that are going to get that overtime. So there was a large concern from the sergeants pertaining to that. We worked with the sergeants, we listened, we talked to Chief, and we came up with a solution that fit. While it was not the most ideal solution, but it has worked. If we were to do something to this effect, those sergeants would then be making less than what some of those police officers are making. We believe that we would absolutely see sergeants going back to becoming police officers, and then we'd have to look for new police sergeants.
Sure.
Explain wage compression.
So wage compression is when, we'll use police as an example just because we have it. So a police officer can top out at, say, $91,000 a year because they've been in position for 8-9 years. Well, a police sergeant may start at $90,000 a year. Maybe they were a police officer for just a couple of years. And so what it is when you think of a hierarchy of positions, that lower level position is making just as much as somebody in a supervisory role or in that next hierarchy. And so what's the incentive for somebody to move up to that supervisory position? And so that's one of the things that we look at all across the board around the city is taking on a supervisory role. There are additional responsibilities that are there. Yes, they might not be doing the boots on the ground, the hand, the drilling or whatever that is, but there are additional responsibilities that the supervisor has. And so we need to make sure that we're paying our people appropriately to be able to be those supervisors.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? We don't have to say yes or no on these. There's
I feel
plenty
like
more coming.
maybe too much is being put into these questions or comments. These are generic suggestions that came from someplace and may not have any value whatsoever. They're just up for discussion, to bring up some discussion. So I think your comments were good. I don't think we're going to cut our police department or anybody on the police department.
Okay, so I'm going to move to the next one. The next one is removing the COLA, or the cost of living increase, which is 2.8, from non-union employees. So Administrator Rath and I talked about this, and we kind of came up with or you came up with the estimate, I think. of about $100,000 savings. Again, this would be just non-union employees and just simply the COLA increase to the salary with a savings of about 100,000. Again, that's approximate. We would have to get an actual number if that's a direction the council wants to move.
So that would not be an accurate number.
Okay.
The information that I had provided was anyone that is on the compensation handbook would, because the way that the compensation handbook states is that the cost of living increase that, or the Midwest CPI, which is set forth by the Iowa League of Cities, is what we utilize as a guide for anybody who is on the compensation handbook. So as we speak now, we also have our municipal employees on that compensation handbook and our library employees on that handbook as well. So if we were to remove that COLA, what we would have to do is we would either have to set up two separate pay charts, which is what the point of the compensation handbook was, to try and get away from that. One for our library and our municipal employees, and then one for our non-represented employees without that COLA. I had provided information last week that was at about 138,000, I think, for any employee on the compensation handbook if we were to remove that COLA.
And the figures that she calculated this afternoon for the general fund would be the 142, 125. And for all departments, it would be 277, 862.
Can you repeat those numbers?
142, 125, 277, 862.
I would just caution with a COLA freeze and even a step freeze. One of the reasons that we did the compensation study years ago is because of situations like this, where steps were frozen, wages were frozen, and it got us out of sync. There's been a lot of conversation, I know, about, well, we should only pay what we can afford. We do compare to sister cities, and that was part of our compensation handbook and the report and the study and everything that was done, was comparing our wages to sister cities. As we've talked about, if we don't pay that competitive rate, we do have employees that will go elsewhere. We see it quite often. Philip and I were just talking about some employees that we had done internships with, that they went somewhere else because they paid more money. So we weren't able to retain them. So we trained them, we taught them internship, gave them this internship, but they went elsewhere because we weren't able to pay them what these other companies around us are paying. So it's still important for us to take a look at what those wages are elsewhere. And that's where that COLA and those steps come into play. All of that information is taken into account when we look at our salaries.
So I think I just need to clarify, because the next two were a salary freeze. One was step and one with COLA. Is that what we just talked about?
Yeah, so the first one was just the COLA.
Right,
The next one where you have just the step freeze,
right.
right? So with just the step freeze, the general fund savings is 55,804. Across all funds, 127,330. The reason why those numbers are so much lower is because not everybody gets a step. Once you reach, the way it's set up is you reach a certain level, and then you don't get another step until you get some more years in, and then you get a step, and then more years in, and you get a step. So it's calculated based upon anybody that would be getting that step.
Okay.
That would also not include contracts with police and fire unless they were willing to open up their contracts again.
Right. Sure. So then the next one after that was a salary freeze for COLA only.
Right. The next one is combined. And so the general fund savings would be $189,075. And across all funds would be $384,390.
And you said combined. Is that the?
That's a COLA and a step freeze.
Okay. So I messed that up. 189. Sorry. Does council understand all of those? We just went through like three of them within a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I saw that. So this is, the COLA and the step is for everybody?
No, It only, it's only for those that are on the compensation handbook currently.
which would
Who's
be,
not on the compensation handbook?
so the Public Works Union will adopt this as of July 1. Like I said, we have the tentative agreement, they
Right, I got
ratified it,
that.
and then we have to bring it
So
to
they're
you
gonna
all
be on
for
it.
approval. So they will be on it as of July 1. All non-represented employees are currently on it, along with our municipal union employees and our library union employees.
So who's not on it?
Police
Assume-
and fire.
Police and fire, thank you.
And when I say police and fire, keep in mind too, like that's not the sergeants, because the sergeants are actually on the compensation handbook. So it is just police officers, dispatchers, and then in the fire department, it's assistant fire chiefs and below. So the deputy and the fire chief are on the compensation handbook. They are not part of their union contract.
Is there any other questions from council on, I guess, these last three that we went through? Three, actually four. Yeah, I just want to make sure we had questions answered
And
first.
this compensation handbook, where is that?
So it was passed by ordinance, Chris, was that in 23, July of 23, I believe?
Yep.
So it was part of that. Our employees also have access to that in UKG. You all would have access to it in UKG as well. Anytime that we do like wage, chart updates based on the COLA, that's always brought to council for approval. Once you approve the budget, I would then bring that compensation handbook to you all for approval as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Gail Roberts again. So on this compensation handbook, when we negotiated our contract, what was it, a couple years ago? We were introduced to this, and in the beginning, they said that we could be on it. Well, and then in our first conversation, it was we would have to get rid of all of our reading in our union book. So we fought for that. We got that. But with the compensation handbook, had we known that we would not get the COLA every year, it was not told to us that it could be a possibility that there could be a wage freeze or we don't get any raises, we would have probably steered away with it. I'm saying in my opinion. But when you're talking about step increase, this, anybody that made 5,000 or more had to get those raises within 2 years. And if you do this, then I know of one person that he was promised this certain raise, he won't get it if you're going to do that.
Sure.
And that's not fair to him. I just think you need to steer away from wage freeze, not giving us our COLA. The morale in the city is already down, and it's going to go even lower if you do this. That's my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people behind me would agree.
I appreciate you telling us that. I didn't understand the handbook.
Yeah.
So now I
Yeah.
know.
Well, in order to get those higher wages, we had to go to the handbook instead of keeping our wages in the union.
I see.
So, yeah, in order to get those higher wages, we had to go with the compensation handbook.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Scott McCarty, 1536 Lake Road. I just want to throw back what we just heard from this side of the table. You want us to do the same amount of work in half the hours while using part-time employees, training interns, trying to encourage them to come work for us for part-time wages while taking a 7.5% pay cut. That's what we just heard out of that packet.
Yep.
He has a fix there. 2% increase on the franchise fee will take care of it, and you'll have happy employees.
Okay, thank you. Alice, I'm going to give you would you like to talk now, Alice? Okay.
Hi, I'm Alice Richardson, Montagno Richardson, 1509 Swanson Avenue. We've been there many years and we've enjoyed living in Ottumwa and hope to stay. We especially appreciate our police department, our fire department, and our sheriff's department. I don't want any wages or anything cut from them. We do not want or need any of our taxes, property taxes raised. And I appreciate the people that do all the work, the city, the staff, employees. I especially appreciate union members. But if we've already lost a lot of people from Ottumwa or Wapello County, are good taxpayers, and I'm concerned about losing even more if the tax rate goes up. I know that people need to earn a living. I appreciate that. I don't want to cut anybody's wages. I want to freeze them, but we're already paying enough money out. I know I've worked a few years in my life, and it was nice to be paid. That's how I paid my taxes, right? But most of my life I've been a volunteer, and I don't expect all of you doing your professional work to volunteer. But we can't keep raising our property taxes. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right. Thanks, Alice.
Can I address part of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when the property tax notice went out, we were at what then was the maximum based upon having additional employees or positions added to the budget. Once we removed those additional ones, plus the changes that the council requested on March 10th, we were actually, our tax levy is actually reduced from its current year. Our current year is 20.99 and 4 other numbers. And the new proposed is $20.85. So the tax levy is going down. And that does not, I'll be truthful, it does not mean that someone's taxes are going down, because all of the things that mix into that is also the valuations. We don't control the valuations. The valuations are set by the assessor. And then also this, if there's an equalization order, that's done through the state. We have to accept what they give us and go from there. But right now, the tax levy is reduced from $20.99 to $20.85.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chad Engel, 307 South Davis. Speaking as just a fairly newer employee, just over 2 years, and hearing some of the past struggles that the city has had, of course, getting more involved in city council meetings and stuff, being part of that. There's been a few things that I just have concern about with what we're talking about this evening. I've had a chance to speak, I think, to the mayor and all the city council members here in the past week or 2 or 3. Some of my concern is we're talking about the freezing of the COLAs and stuff like that. I'm going to speak for my supervisor, Scott. It's a 20-year, employee of the city. This has been done in the past. I don't think that they were ever really caught back up to where they should have been 5 years ago when they took a freeze to try to help with some budget issues then. I think it's unfair for us to ask them to do it again.
Sure.
And I'd hate to see that fall on him. and anyone else that may fall into that category. My other concern would be, as someone has already mentioned, with regards to the contract that we're in current negotiations with. I am concerned with being a newer employee with just over a couple of years. I've been excited about my role at the city and my position with the engineering department, but we've seen a little bit of increases on our insurance last year already, right out of the gate. We're hearing talks of this again. Now, if we go into negotiations where we're looking at possibly a wage increase to offset some of that, I took a pay cut to take this job. The salary, the hourly wage was definitely a pay cut, but the benefits are what brought me to the city of Ottumwa. With our current concern of the issues that are at hand right now with regards to the contract negotiations, then I'm looking at it potentially for my family, and many others of us in this room today are looking at, not only are we looking at potential increases across the board on our taxes in general, whether it's, for whatever, one reason or another, more money is more money. No matter how you cut it, you have to pay it. Then we look at potentially more, again, on our deductibles, the cost of our insurance, and then a potential freeze on the wages that we make. There will be a breaking point. And I won't speak for everyone on that, but I do know that there will be, and there will come a breaking point for a lot of people with regards to not being able to continue to move forward and move up if we take those type of actions. Part of the negotiations that we discussed was because of the benefits that we were going to see by moving to that wage step. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to talk about anything we've discussed so far?
So I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something. There's a good crowd of us here in the room, but we're representing the whole city. And I think most people in the city would say the last thing we want is more franchise fee. It's just more to pay. But we have to look at all the other stuff first. If we can't come up with something better, then the franchise fees are there. But I think the city expects us to look at all the options we can come up with as possibilities, consider it, and then if those don't work, there are franchise fees, but that's basically just another tax, in a sense, we all get to pay. So I think that's important to look at. That's what we're trying to do here, is look at the different options and get the ideas. Is there something else that can work? Before we would get to the franchise fee, we realize that's there, but we'd like to avoid it if we could in a proper way, of course.
Any other comments from council? Otherwise,
No, I agree with Dan. I mean, none of us want to, we're looking at everything, and I being the newbie, I probably looked at more things than most, and was told, I'm going into the weeds and I'm asking too many questions, and I'm learning. I'm not wanting to cut people's wages. I understand the insurance rates are going to go up. That's going to actually, in effect, give you a reduction in your income overall, and that's not good, especially in today's economy as things keep going up. But we're just looking to see what our options are, so that we're not adding on to another levy or franchise fee or any other kind of hidden fee that's going to show up in your bills, your utility bills, or your property taxes. We are trying to do a good job for everybody. And we have to ask the questions and look at all the options, just like anybody does at their own home budget. If we can figure out a way of saving money and doing it where it's the least hurtful to the whole community, that's what we're trying to do. And, but you coming and telling us how you feel and what you're seeing from that side helps us also come up with the solutions. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I always add something at the end. I want to be transparent about it, just to my colleagues, just so going forward, where we stand. There are a lot of good ideas, and I appreciate the public for coming, and I know we have to look at every idea. I just don't think cutting wages or freezing raises is the answer. I think it would cost us our talent. I think it would cost us our hardworking people. People have built careers with us, and I just don't think we can throw it back in their face. And I know that's not what we're trying to do, but people's perception or their reality, we have to look out for citizens and staff and everybody. But I know we all value the staff, and I just couldn't in all good conscience take money away or freeze especially nowadays when the cost of stuff is just skyrocketing. And I don't mean this as a joke. I don't go grocery shopping at all. I went with my wife the other day and I was shocked at milk and everything else. And I don't mean that as a joke. And I just think, just in general with life prices going up, gas at almost $3.50 a gallon. And I think the best way we show them they matter and they value is we don't touch their salaries, we don't take away their raises, and we don't freeze their raises.
Well, and I would just add, Mr. O'Donnell spoke about this a couple of weeks ago too. Yes, the franchise fees are there. For me, the word fee is, I hear tax. And I hate taxing. I hate taxes, and I hate taxing people. At the same time, we have a budget shortfall that we need to hit. With that, turning to the franchise fees, yes, it fixes it this year, not next year. And so this is an ongoing conversation. What I'm looking at, what we did a couple weeks ago, what we're doing tonight, this is the beginning of a conversation that we need to continue to have for really a year to get to where we need to be. Regardless of what we decide now, there are other things coming that we need to be prepared for. What that looks like, we don't know yet. I know what we don't want to do, and sometimes we may find ourselves in a place that we may need to do something we don't want to do. I know that's not a good thing to hear. It's not fun. I'd much rather not be the case, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that it isn't the case. But at the same time, we need to continue having this conversation and look at some of the creative ideas that don't necessarily give us a benefit today, but may give us a benefit when we're in this same spot next year. So that's where I would leave it. And I know we have more to talk about, believe it or not. So
Well, I'd say one more thing is the mayor, he has opened it up more than it has in the past. I mean, all of you hear and you speak, and he wants to keep the line of communication open. And I would urge you to keep talking to him or me or the rest of the council people to keep that line of communication open. Because I think the mayor has done a very good job of opening things up for communication so that it's all out into the public.
Yeah. With that, I don't know if I should do this now or later.
We got a whole nother section, and you just said about adjournment.
We have a whole nother section, and there's one other thing that I'd like to add at the end if we can. So I'm going to turn it over. We'll move into the new business, which would be the health insurance ideas. And it looks like that's Mr. O'Donnell.
So first of all, I may not have said it as clearly as you did, Mr. Mayor, but exactly, we do have to continue looking forward. Get us to where we can this year, and then over the next 8 to 12 months or whatever it is, work towards the future. So again, you probably said it more clearly than I did. So, right. So on the health insurance, staff received a premium renewal increase of 12.8% and indications that we would probably continue to trend up. Staff requested our third-party administrator, which is Gallagher, to present the effect of different changes to the premium contribution percentages, co-insurance, deductible, and out-of-pocket maximums. Given these parameters, Gallagher provided us multiple options. Staff selected 9 options based upon possible increases of cost to employees and possible savings to the city. And you all received a copy of this insurance review. Okay. Staff held meetings with every department explaining the options, received questions, and received feedback. Employees were asked to review the material and complete a survey on their preferences for the options, and you received a copy of that survey as well. If we approach this just as a cost savings for the city, there are options that will create an increase of less than $10,000 or create cuts to what the city is paying currently. However, the increased cost to employees and staff, in staff's opinion, would be detrimental to the employees. There are options that reduce the increased cost to the city while moderating the cost to the employees. It should be noted that after staff entered the approved budget changes in March 10th work session, the employee benefits levy was reduced significantly, and the proposed tax levy is now lower than our current fiscal year, as I stated before. Did you want to review the plan? If you want. You can review the survey better than I can, so.
I mean, this was like an hour-long meeting with all of the staff, so I don't know that you want me to go all
yeah.
that in depth. So
Because
I guess it'd
we've
be more
seen it
that if you
here,
have
yeah.
questions on it. The insurance review, so this was the packet that we provided to every employee. So every employee got this, and this was what we went through with them. Just for you all, quickly, this first page here, first page talks about what our current coverage is. And then our current costs are on page 4, where it says Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield current costs. And so that shows as of right now, and this was as of January when I pulled that data, what the current cost for health insurance was. So as Cola talked about, when we got the insurance renewal back from Wellmark, it was going to be a 12.8% increase in in medical insurance only. So if we maintain our current coverage, everything exactly the same, this Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield maintain current page shows you if we maintain all of the same employees on the same plan, it's going to add about $460,000 to our benefits levy. So because of that, what we did was we went and we got a bunch of options from Gallagher, our third-party benefits administrator, and said, okay, what are our options to try and reduce that amount on that benefits levy? And that's what the rest of that packet is. So like I said, I could go way in depth on that, but we'll be here till 10, 11 o'clock.
Right.
I think we're all hungry.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
This has to do with the survey that the employees filled out, and I understand that the keep it as is option wasn't there. So if there was going to be a change, which one would they choose?
Correct.
And in looking at the one that they chose, which is option 1, that to me, that doesn't seem right that they would have chose that as option 1. Do you feel like that was an accurate vote there?
I do. And a couple of reasons why. So there is with option number 1, what that does is it does not change the plan itself. So all of the deductibles, the out-of-pocket limits, the co-insurance, everything stays the same. The difference for an option 1, right now, our employees pay 10% of that monthly premium, where the city pays 90%. And so the most popular option that employees chose was keeping the plan exactly the same, but changing it to a 15% from the employee and 85% from the employer. Based on preliminary conversations that we had had with our employee advocacy group, within our department head meeting, our supervisor meetings, and other just regular meetings that we've had with employees, the consistent feedback that we were getting was, leave my plan alone. Let's keep it as it is. And I'm willing to pay a little bit more in premiums to keep that same plan, because that also then becomes, it's a pre-tax deduction. So they don't pay taxes on that. So it's going to come out before any type of state or federal income tax comes out. And those employees have said, I'm using this plan, and I maybe never realized what the value of the plan was until I actually had to use it. And so changing a deductible or changing an out-of-pocket maximum, I'd be paying more for a plan plus paying more in premium as well. So based on that, I would say that yes, that's about what we expected as we talked about it, is that option one would be the most appealing to most employees.
So you're telling us that they're happy with like a 2/3 increase in their pay?
Nobody's happy with it. I mean, nobody wants the change. If we have to change something, that would be the most appealing change to them, is that option number one. If there was a change, again, nobody wants the insurance to change. We would all love to keep it as it is. We understand though, and being our fiscal responsibility, if we're going to add $460,000 to our benefits levy, we have to explore other options and we have to look at what those are. That's what this does.
Mm-hmm. And if that is an option that council is considering, it's not locked into having to jump from 10 to 15%. It could go to 12 or 12.5%. It could be somewhere in the middle, and maybe over 2 years it goes up to the 5% or 3 years.
One thing I will share in doing some research for some different contract negotiations is that cities, it is becoming more common. What we're seeing is that cities maybe raise it by 1% 1 year, and then 2 years down the road, they raise it by another percent. That is something that's becoming very commonly seen in other cities in the state of Iowa.
Was that given to them as an option?
No, because we wanted to limit the number of options. I mean, there was well over 30, 35 different options that we had received, and that's too much for any one person.
Yeah, the survey was more to gain a general consensus, like I said, plan design versus a change in premium share. So knowing that the majority of, or the highest number was that share, again, doesn't mean we have to go to that full 15 in 1 year. The council would have discretion to do a lesser amount.
I know at one time when we were talking through some of this, there was an idea of co-oping with other communities. Where did we end up on that?
So we did get the quotes back on that. The big thing with co-oping with other communities is that we would be kind of pigeonholed into the plan that they have. And most of those co-op, they only offer two different options, which is employee only or family. And so when we got the quotes back, our employees that would be on the employee plus spouse plus the employee plus children plan would see a huge jump. It was almost the exact same cost as what a family plan would be. When we look at the number of employees that were on those two options, there wasn't enough of a difference to make a savings there, and it would cost our employees that much more to go to one of those plans. So we did explore that, and it's not something that we won't explore again, but we just felt that with where our plan was right now, with what we're talking about with the employees, that significant jump, it just wasn't worth it for our employees to have to make that jump.
So maybe I don't understand how that co-op thing works, but couldn't we pigeonhole someone else into our plan? You know?
We would be buying into theirs, because that plan right now, they may have 3,000 lives, where we have 172 employees on our plan.
Okay. I guess one idea, when I thought of co-op, I thought we could reach out to, say, Wapello County and see if they wanted to come on to our plan and increase our base.
Their plan is actually better than ours.
Well, then maybe we need a pigeonhole to theirs. I don't, that was what I was thinking when it came to co-op, is talking to the neighboring counties and communities and just building more of a coalition within the region.
Right.
Is that something that we've looked at, or?
That is something that we've kicked around, and probably is something that is one of those future type of things to explore. Again, with our trend right now of trending up, so that we expect hopefully not a 12.8% increase in premiums next year, but we could expect a double digit or very high single digit. So between now and then, we could look at those options. Another option we also looked at was working with the school and the county to have basically a company nurse. So we would have a facility that would act as a clinic for all of the employees that are in those three organizations, and that they could go there for physicals, they could go there for urgent care or something like that, but that the cost to the employee would be nothing because we're already paying the cost of running that as part of our plan. So what that would do is in the long run, because they're not using deductibles and co-insurances on the current plan, you would see a better usage, which would then moderate our premium increases over the years.
Okay.
There's other things, yeah, to that point. I mean, there's other things that we are looking at. It's just not going to make it for this year. That would be something down the line.
So the current shortfall, the new number that you gave us this evening, is that leaving the plan as is?
Yes.
The change in insurance will not affect the shortfall at all because insurance benefits are paid through the benefit levy. And so all of the benefits are in that levy, and then the money is transferred into the general fund to cover that. So this does nothing for the shortfall. All it is that when we got that 12.8% increase, doing our fiduciary duty, we said we need to explore options and present them to the council for your discussion, debate, and decision.
Does it increase taxes at all?
If we change the plan, if we went, let's say we went with option one and it was immediately at the 85.15, it would bring the total levy down from proposed levy down from 2085 to 2068.
If we stay with what we have,
If we stay with what we have, we're at 2085.
2085, okay.
So it seems like option one, and instead of 1585, if it was 1288, do we have any kind of numbers for that?
I could run those quickly.
1288 on the percentages. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for discussion. Any thoughts?
I think that what we could do is we could run a couple of scenarios of the 1288 or going 2.5 and then 2.5 or 1, 1, and 1 and run those scenarios and show what the effect is for this year, not knowing what the effect would be in future years because we don't know what our increases would be.
Sure.
Because the full 5% just looks like a big monthly difference, annual difference on the employees. It is too much increase on them. So that's why I'm suggesting maybe a 1288 split.
Yeah, we can run that. It's fairly quick to do.
Okay. Any other questions on the insurance?
No. What do the
So-
people think?
So on the insurance, again, we'll run those scenarios and we'll get those out to you. Like Barb said, she can run those pretty quick and she can probably have those out to you tomorrow. I can calculate what the difference is in any of those for the benefits levy. I will be out the rest of the week, but I will have my computer with me. And so as soon as I get Barb's email, I can calculate those things.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Chad Eagle again, 307 South Davis. As I mentioned a little bit before about the insurance, and we had talked about this, part of my concern is what I'm hearing tonight. I want to be perfectly clear that I think everybody's on the same page, and I want the council to be clear that we as a group that have spoken to you have very clearly stated that we would be willing to pay the 12.8% increase to cover that cost. We
On
would
your
much rather
10,
see that.
on your 10%, you mean?
Yes, we want to keep
12.8%.
everything what we've got, just like Barbara said, everybody wants to keep what we have. That is absolutely what we want to do. You know, that wasn't an option on the survey for us to state that, so I don't want it to be confusing to the council to say or see that option one is what we have chosen. We haven't chosen that.
Right.
Or I haven't.
Right.
My choice is to keep what we have, pay the 12.8% and cover the cost of that increase. I just wanted to be clear on that, and hopefully that makes.
Can you run those numbers, Cole?
Oh, no, that would be, it's already in the packet here. And if we kept everything the same, It's where the levy would be at 2085. When he says they're willing to pay the 12.8% increase, it's the 12.8% increase on their share. The city would still have to pay the 12.8% increase on the 90% that we are committed to.
And that is in your packet.
That's
the maintain
460.
current. Yeah, that 457,000
Right.
and change.
And the other portion of that I mentioned, from hearing what I'm hearing tonight, is if this is something we're looking at doing now, and these are great options that we're talking about for maybe looking at changes in the future, why do we need to make those drastic changes now? Is there something we can do? Maybe those rates go down. Maybe we see something trend the other way a year from now or 2 years from now. So instead of putting in some cases, some options, depending on where we landed, were 70% increases to our premiums. Instead of taking a risk and doing that now, can we say, can we look at this and say, okay, there's a trend next time around. We can readjust this. Let's 90-10. If we lose 90-10, we'll never see 90-10 again. And my concern is again, I came here for the benefits. That was part of what sold me to take the job, to take less money, was the benefits. And it hurts a lot to think that we would lose that, because once we lose it, we'll never see it back. And when it's gone, it's gone. So that's all I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
With that, go ahead.
My name's Aaron Short. I don't live in the city, but I'm a current city employee. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but these insurance changes will not affect everybody, because I believe we have 2 union contracts that this would not affect.
Correct.
So therefore,
it would have one.
One.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to affect.
Would you pull that microphone up,
of the city employees,
please?
We're not hearing you good.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we make these changes right now, you're not going to affect the entire city workforce, because there's one bargaining contract that it will not affect. So I guess my question would be, where would the fairness in that be?
Right.
Okay, and I guess the other thing is with everything that's been said tonight, to speak with what you said a few minutes ago, Mayor, nothing is viable. I mean, nothing that has been presented tonight is going to be viable. I mean, it's really not. You were looking for a short-term fix overnight, essentially. I mean, taking money from whether it be the citizens or the employees is every option that's been presented tonight. I guess my question would be what's the bottom line for the city, and what does it take to keep the lights on without making these changes, without trying to affect the general public, without affecting all the employees that are sitting here right now?
Sure.
I mean, the entire conversation, you guys started out with the residency. It doesn't matter if we can't keep people, and it doesn't matter if they don't want to work here. I mean, you can't continuously take the benefits from us and expect people to want to stay. I mean, there's a big group of people here right now, just because of this. I mean, it just, you can't keep kicking the people when they're already down. It just doesn't make any sense. And we want to be here. We don't want to go find other jobs. We don't want to be part of another community. We're here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I do have one person that wanted to speak on something that is a non-agenda item, so I'm going to ask Chris Patrick to come up.
So Chris Patrick, Executive Director of Main Street Ottumwa. I believe that we were going to go through all of the suggestions that the council members had raised in the past, especially over the last 2 weeks. And one of those was funding cuts for Main Street, also greater, I can't even talk tonight, so go PIP, and then meet Ottumwa. So if that's not on the agenda tonight, I don't need to speak. But if that is still an option, I will take this moment to talk to the council.
Yeah. I don't think we're taking any action on that tonight. But
You
yeah,
didn't take,
we're open
you
to
didn't,
hearing
we
it.
didn't take any action on it on March 10th either.
That's
No,
true.
I think your question is that still on the table?
Is that still on the table? Exactly.
How did you hear about that?
How did I hear about that? It was actually talked about. You actually said that in the last meeting that I was here 2 weeks ago. You said maybe we need to erase that contract, not just our contract, but the contract of several other people. And that was why I'm here tonight. And that is why we've been reaching out through social media to get people to respond to us. We have 145 people who are in favor of Main Street that live in the community, live in Ottumwa. So if that is still on the table, I would like to speak at that meeting, and I would like to know when that meeting is.
I can only speak for myself, but I don't really think it's on the table because, first of all, we have a contract with Meet Ottumwa, and then the others aren't a part of the shortfall. You know, they're paid other ways. It's not part of
Exactly.
the
I mean, and that
general
was why I
fund.
was kind of surprised that our contract with Iowa Economic Development Authority and the city of Ottumwa was on the table because we are paid out of tax increment financing from the Westgate District. We are not paid out of general fund. So I was just interested in why that would have even been put on the table.
I can only speak for myself on this too, is that the city budget is kind of complex and I have a
Very.
hard time knowing what pays what. And so you throw things out there and then you find out, well, that's not even from the general fund. So that's why things come up sometimes until you find out for sure. You're just kind of checking, looking.
No, I really appreciate that. And I would just suggest to the council that you do take advantage of the League of Cities and some of their trainings that you can actually take. I know we've had several council people in the past that have taken them. And so
Yes.
you better understand the budget. You understand what is general fund, and then you also understand what is not before you start making decisions and throwing things out in the public to get people in the public, like a lot of our volunteers and investors, a bit concerned about your understanding of the budget process itself.
So I personally have listened to and watched the Iowa League of Cities budget video several times.
Awesome.
And it's
Thank you
still
for
hard to
doing
get
that.
hold of. Okay. So it does take there's a learning curve there for sure.
Sure, and that is the only reason I asked to speak tonight. So I hope that if it does stay on the table, if it is, that it's on the agenda in a clear way so we know as Main Street volunteers and staff if our budget's going to be cut. If you cease that contract with Main Street Iowa, Main Street Ottumwa cease to exist. And I don't know if you realize that.
I realize we're not taking any action tonight, but I would like to tell you my feelings. I have no intentions of voting with cutting Main Street budget, period. Is that a good answer?
Yes, thank you. No, I really appreciate that. One of the things that I don't think people understand is we brought in $8.8 million of grant funding into the downtown over the last 20 years. And we are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So we've just been making strides forward. We actually also help different departments with doing things for them, especially like with the Downtown Maintenance Fund, where we have 2 part-time employees. We get $40,000. There's no way that you can do what we do. It's going to impact your budget by having to hire another person. And we really appreciate Gene Ratchie and everything that he's done for us. So thank you, Gene, for that. That's what I've got. And I
Thank
do
you.
appreciate your comment very much, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments or questions?
No. It's a learning curve.
I guess I would just say, one, I am so glad that you all came. Even though a lot of the things that I was saying wasn't real fun to hear. Again, there are ideas that we just felt like we needed to go through. Brought to me by different people, some of them myself, but I'm not going to call out anybody else. With that, I would state, if you understand and if you've been doing the math based on what we've went through as far as the savings that we've been able to find in the last 2 meetings, and where we're at with the shortfall, we're still in the shortfall. So I would welcome every one of you to contact me with any idea you have to help us meet that shortfall. Like I said, every idea is a good idea until it isn't. And the only way we can discover that it isn't is by having conversations like we had tonight. So I want to thank you for all participating. Again, I welcome, and I mean that, I welcome you to contact me and let me know what your ideas are. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yeah.
Councilmember Dupre?
Yes.